So here's the basic process. Okay, the other component, of course, is the approval task itself. And this is where the part that handles the participants. Okay, so now if we look at over here, assignment, they call them assignment, but you see here it's a participant. So what we're going to do is we double click on the participant, and you see that right there? Now that's why all of the approvals go to XCL ADM out of the box, and that's basically what those other zip files were that are supplied by OIM. They basically ran the template generator, created a zip of the folder, and put them out there and deployed them and called them, things that they don't really do. So what we're going to do here, in order to make this actually get the beneficiaries manager, what we have to do is change this to an expression type. Okay, now once we do that and click this, then you'll see where our payload is coming from. Okay, here's our payload. Okay, one of the payload values is the beneficiary details. Okay, and there's the manager login. So we're going to set that. Oops. Okay, that's another thing you have to. Okay, one of the things you have to do is clear this and then insert the expression. Okay, so that's where we want the manager login to come from. So when the request comes in and the approval kicks off, it will send the approval request to whoever is specified in this payload value. Okay. So there must be some kind of contract between OIM and SOA that, OIM, when it drives the service, it's going to pass all of these things to it, because OIM is where the data is actually being captured. So, okay. Now once we do that, we're basically ready to deploy. So, and the other thing too is these are basically just XML files. You can switch these back to source mode and you'll see what they are. Okay, and you see this is where we stuck, our participant value to come from. Okay, so what we do now is we go up here, we right click on the project name, and we say deploy. And since this is the first time we're deploying this, we're going to have to go through these steps. Okay, so we're going to deploy to the application server, which is SOA server 1. It's going to be version 1 in this round. We also want to set this so that we overwrite any composites with the same revision. That'll just make it easier to do our testing when we have to keep changing it. Okay, we'll go next. Application servers, we're going to add one. Okay. Okay, so it found our SOA server. It already knows it's running, and so now it's going to deploy. And there we go. You see the stuff down here is happening. Okay, we can look in here, and we see it's getting built. Okay, this will take a few seconds. You can also switch these to see there's different messages in each of these. So it's basically just running a big ant file right now. Okay, I've did some research on these messages, and everything's basically fine. It's just squawking about silly stuff, so you can ignore these. I haven't really had a chance to totally track down why it's doing this and if indeed they are fixable, but the little bit of research I did do, that they don't really mean anything and you can ignore them. So at this point, the composite's been deployed. The AI beneficiary manager approval composite's been deployed to the SOA server. Okay, the thing we have to do now is wire it up to OIM. So the way we do that is we go back to the same, pretty much the same place where we ran the where we ran the template builder. And so we're going to go, okay, we've already set our environment, so we don't have to do that again. Okay, registration. This is where we go to register. Now you see all of these have these properties files here. Okay. So what we're going to do is we have to create one just like it. Well, not just like it. Well, sort of just like it. Okay. Careful that everything is spelled properly. Okay. So now what we'll do is we'll just grab one of the ones that's already there. Okay, we'll call this AI. Do the same thing here. Okay, we're definitely doing an approval process. It's a BPEL process. We're going to need the request approval service to do this. The domain is default. You'll see where that comes in shortly. When you go into OIM and you actually start assigning this approval process to a approval policy, when you list all the processes, they show up as default/something. So default is basically the default domain name of the SOA composite, not OIM domain. Okay, and version is run. The payload ID is payload, and then when you assign that variable, we saw that variable was called payload. That's like the big kahuna. Okay, so the other thing we don't want to do is we also want to make sure there's no blank lines. And here we have trailing blank lines. So, okay, I think we're beneficiary manager approval. Okay. But if we don't have it right, it'll definitely tell us when we run this. So we're going to run ant-f register workflow, and we want it to register. Okay, once again, this is going to ask us some questions. Okay, this is the XML user ID. And then, of course, the XML ID and password. Okay, and that's OIM's EJB container. And then we're doing, if it's still here. Okay. So that's the properties file we just created. if it finds it and it writes everything, it'll just successfully wire us up to OIM. So technically, once this finishes, and then you go into the approval policies, and you say, here's my approval process, this will show up in the list of selectable processes that you can assign to that approval policy. Okay, we're good to go. And that's the end of part 1.